Today's dating is spontaneous and has no rules. Too casual if you ask a Victorian. The dating scene in the Victorian era was scripted and people knew exactly how to behave in each dating stage. It was deliberate and there were no coincidences. There was even a dating manual. If you're wondering what I'm going on about, make sure you stick around until the end of this video to get a clear picture of the Victorian dating scene and much more. Welcome to Untold History Guy, where you can find fun, fascinating, and sometimes shocking chronicles of history. Join us as we journey back and uncover the untold truths of the past. Social dating rules. Dating today has become quite easy, since all you have to do is find someone you're attracted to and take them out on a few dates to determine if they're a good match for you. However, this has not always been the case. If you existed during the Victorian era, you would be surprised at how things have changed over the years. Unlike the dating standards we have today, the dating rituals during the Victorian era were quite strict. People back then used to follow certain rules and codes. They looked up to Queen Victoria to learn how to treat potential suitors. Some of the Victorian values that people were keen on included modesty and chastity. Dating today is not always very serious, since you may go out with someone for a couple days and then forget all about them. But back then, the Victorians viewed dating and courtship quite seriously, since their end goal was always marriage. Though Victorians were romantics, they always expressed their interest in a regulated manner. So, how did the Victorians date? Coming out. Unlike in the modern world, where many people start dating while still in school, the Victorians began dating after completing school. When a young woman finished schooling, she would be presented to the community to show that she was looking for a husband. The Victorians referred to this phase as the coming out. You probably know of couples that date or even get married outside their social class. This concept did not apply in the Victorian era, since the coming out of a girl was based on her parents' resources. If a girl came from a rich family, the family could hold a couple of parties to present her to society. On the other hand, if the girl came from a middle-class family, the family would hold one private party for her to come out. The Victorians took the coming out seriously, and families took months preparing for it. This event included a dance and balls. As soon as a young lady had officially come out, she was now allowed to attend gatherings and parties in the hopes of meeting a suitor. Dating manuals. This is one thing that shows that dating was not a joke during the Victorian period. Today, nobody has to read a manual on dating before taking someone out. But Victorians had access to self-help books that they had to read as they explored the dating world. The books explained the rules of etiquette and social behavior for both genders. These books came in handy since they gave them insights into how to act in the dating scene. No wonder the Victorians had a reputation for being gentlemen and ladies. Introductions. The Victorians were not sexually liberated, since both men and women were not free to approach one another. If, for instance, you saw someone you were attracted to as a woman, you had to wait to be introduced rather than going over to talk to them. Since social status was crucial in the Victorian era, less-ranking people were not allowed to approach high-ranking people unless they were granted permission. Though this may be a shock to you, the Victorians considered it a form of etiquette. Even after introductions, women were expected to address their suitors in a certain way. For instance, a lady could not use the man's Christian name during their conversation. Instead, she was expected to call him by his surname. Formal meetings. Imagine going out on a date that feels formal rather than casual. This was what dating was like during the Victorian era. During that time, meetings were rehearsed. This meant that young men had to be taught special skills before they could indulge in the dating world. This explains why unmarried young men during the Victorian period had such good manners. Today, you don't have to ask for your parents' permission to go out on a date. If you're not new to dating, I bet the concept of supervised dates sounds strange. Unlike today, no Victorian woman was permitted to go out on a date alone and without their mother's permission. Additionally, the lady had to be accompanied by someone elderly. This was probably uncomfortable, right? If a woman decided to bring a man home for a date, she would only do this as long as there was another family member present. A man was also not allowed to invite a lady to his house for a date. With so many working hours in our current society, nobody seems to have the time to go out on dates during the day. Well, things were quite different during the Victorian era, since a woman was not permitted to go out on a date with a man at night. Finding a partner. We all know that finding a suitable partner is not that easy, right? That's why the Victorians implemented different methods to achieve this. While some met through their parents or mutual friends, others met through social events such as church or picnics. Believe it or not, some people during the Victorian era depended on matrimonial advertisements to find suitable matches. These were common in working-class communities, but by the 1870s, upper-class communities embraced them as well. Though such advertising was initially considered immodest, they allowed singles to find compatible partners. Some people thought this was not the best way to find a partner, since women also advertised their needs and wants in public, and according to their traditions, a woman was not supposed to be upfront about her search for a husband. The fan language. You probably associate a folding fan with style, but did you know it was also used for flirting? During the Victorian era, the fan language was popular. Victorian women used fans to send specific signals to their suitors. For instance, if during dating a lady opens her fan, it signaled that she was interested in the man. On the other hand, if she kept the fan closed, it communicated her lack of interest. If the fan were half open, it meant the guy was getting friend-zoned. Since the Victorian ladies were not expected to be too forward, using hand fans was a perfect way to send different signals. Dating gifts. In the modern world, giving someone you like gifts is quite common. You've probably bought or received different items if you've been dating. However, during the Victorian period, ladies were not allowed to accept expensive gifts from gentlemen they were not engaged to. This is because the Victorians considered gift-giving before engagement a way to bribe the woman for her affections. If a man insisted on giving a woman they are not engaged to a gift, they could only offer them perishable things like fruits, candy, or flowers. The Victorians believed that such perishable gifts were okay for dating since they did not leave an obligation upon the receiver. No physical contact. From the above rules and practices, you're probably wondering whether the Victorians had any form of physical contact during dating. Well, they were not even allowed to touch each other, let alone have any form of intimacy. This may seem quite backwards to us, but the Victorians that came up with the rule believed they had valid reasons. To them, one of the most important qualities of being a potential wife was virginity. That's why every encounter was supervised in the Victorian period to reduce any kind of temptation. According to them, even rumors that a woman had been with another man could negatively affect her reputation. Additionally, impure conversations were not to be held in the presence of a single woman. Taking long walks. Unlike today, where people who like each other prefer spending their time indoors watching movies or playing games, going for long walks was a common ritual during the Victorian era. If two people were interested in each other, they were allowed to begin with short strolls and later long walks in the countryside or parks. During such walks, even holding hands was not allowed. The only instance where holding hands was permitted was if the two were walking on an uneven road and the man had to protect the woman from stumbling. Additionally, a woman was also not allowed to ride in a closed carriage alone with a man she was not related to. Staying in shape. According to their dating manuals, Victorian men were encouraged to like women who were strong and in shape. You probably associate Victorian women with their tight-fitting corsets. For these women to fit into such clothes, they had to always stay in shape. The Victorian men were also encouraged to choose ladies that were strong enough to manage the labors that come with raising a family. Therefore, women looking for suitors were always to stay mindful of their health. They even engaged in activities that would keep them in shape. So, what do you think? Which of the dating rules or practices surprised you the most? Feel free to share this with us in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.